Welcome everybody to Alumni Takeover Week. My name is Mike Lyons. I'm the chair and associate professor and chair in the Department of Communication and Media Studies. Throughout the week, as you may know, we've invited alumni to join us for conversations about their careers, to give you insight into different career paths and industries, and get advice on how to enter and thrive in these fields. Our guest today is Rachel Castellano, a talented marketing professional with a passion for media and entertainment. She graduated from St. Joe's in 2018 with a degree in communications and a minor in marketing, even spending time abroad at the American University of Rome, one of my favorite cities. Now she's making waves at the Walt Disney Company, where she specializes in integrated marketing and brand solutions. With over 7 years of experience, Rachel has built a career focused on creative strategy and impactful storytelling. I'm excited to welcome Rachel back to Hawk Hill. I have some questions, and those of you in the audience will have a chance to ask questions in the Q&A feature. I want to apologize at the start when it looks like I'm looking at the ceiling, but I'm actually looking at a screen with Rachel on it, so I'm not kind of daydreaming. Rachel, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
Of course. It's great to be back.
So let's start off with a big, broad one. Describe your current role at Disney, your core responsibilities, and what a typical day looks like for you.
Yes, definitely. So I sit in, we call ourselves Entertainment Brand Solutions, which is really just a fancier way of saying integrated marketing. But I currently sit on our ABC daytime and syndication vertical, which I work on Live with Kelly and Mark, Good Morning America, the third hour. We call ourselves GMA3, that airs at 1 o'clock, The View, and Tamron Hall. So Entertainment Brand Solutions, basically we work as a team to drive revenue for our shows and, really create creative content for, diverse audiences and contributing to the success of brands that we partner with. So basically we work very closely with our advertisers. Advertisers will come to us if they have, a brand launch, a new product, if they have a certain initiative coming up and they really want to get out on air, or if they want to partner with us, and look for streaming opportunities or get some kind of social package out there. We are there to help them get their word out, partner with us, and that's really top line what we do. A big part of my job, it's really hard to say what my day-to-day looks like because it is so fast-paced, moving very quickly. I do work for live television, so things are constantly changing. But the largest part of my job is very much coming up with creative concepts for these advertisers and ways that we can integrate them into our programs. So whether that's, a health and wellness theme week for a client who's in the health and wellness space, or we worked with Sharpie once and they were celebrating their 60 years of innovation and they had a new product launch and they really wanted to highlight it on air with one of our programs. We really could do anything, get super creative, which is the part of the job that I really love, being able to put my thinking cap on and think, which show would make the most sense for an advertiser, based on, the demographic that they're looking for, and the audience that they're looking for. So it's a cool role being able to work on. I work very closely with sales, but I also work very closely with production and our production staff and producers. So I like to say that we are very much that middleman, between sales and production, which is the sweet spot to be in. I really get to have the best of both worlds. So yeah, that's really just in a nutshell what I do. But yeah, each show is so different, which I do like to touch on. Like, let's say GMA is very known for, their lifestyle content, and celebrity interviews, whereas Tamron Hall is known for her sit down interviews that are talking about human interest stories or giving back to the community. So it is really cool to be able to work on so many different programs that have so many different voices, and audiences. But yes, so that's really in a nutshell what I do.
Great. Hey, Aisha, could you mute? Thank you. That's terrific. So we should kind of level set here and provide some context because there might be some students who are like, Dude, I thought you were in Orlando, like hanging out with Mickey Mouse, but Walt Disney is a massive company that owns all
Yes.
kinds of things. So give us a quick overview of what Disney does and what they own.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why I love this company, there are so many different avenues that you could take a career here. We have Hulu, we have Disney Plus, the streaming world, which is huge right now. That's really where our business is really putting a lot of focus on, and where we're moving. But we also have National Geographic, FX, Disney Channel, Disney Networks, ABC, ABC specials. ESPN is a huge one as well. You know, we have a lot of we have NFL partners. We're working with a lot of sports. So it's really cool how many brands are under the Disney umbrella. So no, I am not with the parks every day, but I am the one who sits more on the entertainment side for our daytime and syndication programs, our daily talk shows. But it is cool to see, you know, how many different people that you meet all the time. I'm a big person when it comes to networking and coffee chats. I love to take advantage of that, especially in this kind of environment. Um, just being able to sit down with someone who works for ESPN and really listen to what they do on a daily basis. It's inspiring, and even though I'm 7 years into my career, it's always giving me ideas as, you know, what the future could hold for me here, because there's so many different avenues that I could go, which is awesome.
So you're in New York, just to set the record
Yes.
straight. Yeah, okay,
Yes.
good.
Not in
Um,
Orlando. Yeah.
so I probably 15 minutes ago, I had a meeting with a student, a young woman who's a sophomore,
Mhm.
and she was really, it's advising is starting now, the registration, all that kind of thing. And we had a conversation that I have often with younger students, and that is she has no idea what she wants to do and
Mhm.
no idea where to look. And,
Yeah,
you probably remember that feeling. I know I certainly do.
absolutely.
Um, how did you find yourself into this career?
Yeah. So I very much relate to that. I remember when I was at St. Joe's, I was undecided right when I started with St. Joe's. I had no idea what I wanted to do. It was a little overwhelming. There's so many different options. There's so many different avenues that you could go, but I knew that I had a passion for storytelling. I love, you know, creating content. I love, you know, telling stories. So I knew that that's something that I was good at and that would excite me. I love pop news, pop culture. I love entertainment. I love media. I mean, who doesn't love to just sit and binge watch one of your favorite shows? I loved that world. So I remember taking my first few communications classes at St. Joe's, and I really fell in love with just that world of communications. I mean, there's so many different ways that you could take that in a career. Every company, let's be real, needs some kind of communication. So I loved that because I knew that, okay, that's a good way to start. Each world, any avenue that I go, they're going to need some kind of communication. The way that I found myself in within this media entertainment world is, it's funny. I actually had an integrated marketing communications class at St. Joe's, and I this specific professor had a few representatives come in to just present, you know, from different companies. So I think we had one from like print and radio. We had one from, it was actually 6ABC down the street for television. And they presented really their, you know, their company and what they do. And I remember when the gentleman from 6ABC came in to present to our class, I instantly fell in love with just media. I thought it was the coolest thing. I loved his story. And I felt extremely just excited about the future all of a sudden. I was like, wow, I feel like I could really see myself in this kind of world. So I was really eager to learn more. So the way that this all panned out was at the end of the class, everyone kind of left, and I went right up to him and I said, look, like this was so cool. I'm very inspired. I would love to learn more. And I really just put myself out there with him, and we exchanged emails, and he said I'll be in touch. So we ended up connecting, and that's really how I got my internship with 6ABC in Philadelphia. So that is really where it all began for me. I remember when we were just chatting and I was connecting and learning more, and he had me come in for an interview for the internship. Um, just sitting there and learning more about the world and being able to see the newsroom and where all the magic happens. I was just so inspired, and I got super excited to be able to start my career path there. I knew that that's something that I felt passionate about. So that's really how it all started in terms of entertainment media, and starting with 6ABC for my first internship, which was pretty huge for me. So yeah.
Yeah, so, some people, we talked about this before we started. Some people forget when they drive up City Avenue that we're at the highest part in the city and all the
Yeah.
TV stations are around here, right? And so,
Hmm.
um, and I think a lot of folks maybe think, well, like I don't want to be on TV, I don't want to do TV news, but
Hmm.
these are big companies. What did you do
Yeah.
in that internship?
Yeah. So I started my first, I actually did 3 rounds of internships with them. My first internship was, I think it was the summer going into my senior year. So that summer internship, I did the sales and marketing internship with them. Absolutely loved it. I knew that I loved marketing communications. There were so many different options, honestly, with them. But I felt like I was leaning more towards the marketing route. So I took that internship with them. But not only did I work on sales and marketing with them, it was really cool being able to be just under the roof of 6ABC. They really let me explore everything. So even though my primary job there was in the marketing department, I said to my supervisor, "Hey, I would love to just go sit in the newsroom today and
Hmm.
see what that world's all about. Hey, I would love to go see like creative services department. I heard that they, edit videos and short films. I'd love to see like what that looks like." So I think that that was the coolest part of my internship, was not only did I just sit in marketing and I gained exposure there, but I very much gained exposure all around the company, which was super important to me because maybe yes, I'm sitting in the marketing internship, but you never know. Maybe I go sit with someone from creative services, and it just kind of sparked an interest in my mind. So I actually took a creative services internship 2 semesters later with them as well. Being able to see a little bit more of the production side was really cool to me. So, but that was the best part of my internship experience, was not only did I work on marketing, but I really got to see, all of 6ABC and how it all comes to life. There's so many different, there's sales, there's marketing, there's the newsroom, so many different departments. So that was really beneficial.
Yeah, that's a sign of a great internship when they let
Yeah.
you do that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
versus just tying you to a desk and having you do mundane
Oh yeah.
tasks, right? That's terrific.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's also, I tell students a lot too, and it sounds like maybe this may have been your experience, that internships are good to figure out what you like, but they're also really good to
Yes.
figure out what you don't like.
Hmm.
Is
Yeah.
that something that happened to you when you were interning, or cross that off my list? And
It did actually. So again, I was in that sales and marketing internship, and it's funny. So I that was my very first internship. Like I mentioned, the summer was my first internship with them, and then I actually stayed on in that same department for the fall. So I basically did 2 back-to-back internships with the sales and marketing team. I loved it so much. And then my final semester, right before graduation, that's when I joined the creative services team, which was nice to be able to say, okay, I sat on a different team, was able to see how they operated. But just for me, nothing bad about that internship. But me personally, it was a lot of like sitting and video editing. And I had interest in that. I wasn't sure like would I be good at it? Would I enjoy it? But I actually quickly learned that like no, I actually like being in that marketing world where I'm up on my feet. I'm at shoots, I'm at events, and I'm being active, and I'm not more so just sitting in like a dark room and editing videos. So that is one thing that I did learn about myself. And then yeah, so I think I am a big believer of that as well, and that really ties back to the way I network and the way that I have coffee chats. I always like to tell people it's such a good idea to have a coffee chat with people, even if you don't think that their specific role is what you have an interest in. Because sitting down with someone, obviously I'm in marketing right now, but sitting down with someone on the sales side is interesting to talk to them and hear about their day to day, because maybe you'll learn, oh wait, that actually sounds really interesting. Maybe I would enjoy that path. Or, oh wait, no, 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 no. I don't think that I would enjoy that at all. You really don't know until you talk to someone or you shadow someone or experience that work. Um, so it is good to just kind of talk to anyone or get any kind of experience that you can get, because like you mentioned, you may love it or you may be like, oh, I don't think I would like this, until you try it.
Yeah, that was one of my next questions is
Hmm.
about networking and interview.
Yeah.
And networking gets a bad rap,
Hmm.
but there's all kinds of ways to do it. And
Yeah.
I tell me if this rings true for your experience.
Yeah.
And Melanie, for the Yankees, talked about this morning, is these jobs, there is a supply and demand issue here. You have lots of
Yeah.
people who want these jobs, and
Yes.
you have few jobs, right? And so that networking and of course like
Hmm.
knowing people and stuff, but the networking is so crucial to getting into
It
these
is.
jobs.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It is definitely. I would also say that's very much the case for here as well. And like I really think it's anywhere. And that's something I really quickly learned, especially when I was at St. Joe's and even just trying to get my internship. I mean, like the example I gave you earlier, it was really from me networking with the gentleman who came into my class and presented to us. And that's really how I got my internship. It wasn't because I applied. So I am such a preacher when it comes to networking. I love networking. I really do believe that that is a huge way to, land a role. It's all about who you know sometimes, and the connections that you make. But I do like to stress that, um, when I network, it's not, sometimes I don't just network just because I want a job. I network even if I'm looking or not. I just like to make those connections because you never know down the road where that might lead you. So even right now with the job that I love being in, I'm still continuing to connect with people, learning about what people do, because you never know what that will lead you down in the future. I'm also just a huge people person. I love to just talk and pick people's brains. That's the way that I learn. And also, it's a giant company too. So being able to put puzzle pieces together is super important to me, instead of saying just in my little bubble. But in terms of
Mm,
trying to, um, look to land a job right out of college, I really do believe that, networking is such a huge, um, aspect to that. And the way that I like to go about that is LinkedIn is my best friend when it comes to trying to, um, network and make those connections. What I like to often do is if there's a specific area of interest for me, I will like to go type that in. If there's a specific company tied to that, let's say I'm going to use Disney, for example, integrated marketing at Disney. See who pops up, and I'll just send a short little message and just say, 20 minutes of your time. I would love to have coffee and just hear about what you do. I think that goes a long way. That really, at least for me, I know a few people also reach out to me. And I love being able to, return the favor because I remember being in that same spot, around graduation time. Um, but it just goes a long way. And yeah, I can't recommend, networking enough. I think it's crucial when it comes to making connections and looking to land that first job.
sure.
Hmm.
Relatedly, let me take a bit of a right turn. So there's lots of talk about diversity, equity, inclusion in the news. It's become
Hmm.
this big political
Yeah.
issue. But in
Hmm.
real terms, for media companies and people who do storytelling, it is really crucial to
Yeah.
understand how diversity, equity, inclusion works, because you're telling
Hmm.
stories to all kinds of folks in all kinds of
Right.
ways. Can you describe a little bit maybe how Disney handles this? Like
Yeah.
what commitments they make? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, definitely. So at Disney, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it is very important. I do believe it is very much in the core values reflected in both of our content and just our culture, in the workplace. Um, we very much ensure that like our programming very much represents diverse voices, perspectives, um, and experiences that resonate with audiences from all backgrounds. Like I mentioned earlier, each of our shows are so unique and diverse. They're speaking to specific audiences. For example, Tamron Hall is very much one of our highest multicultural audiences out of all the 4 to 5 shows that I work on. But very much within the ABC's daytime and syndication vertical that I work on, we work with brands and partners that very much align with our values, and that create content that authentically speaks to a wide range of communities. But each of our shows very much have content that is centered around these DE&I initiatives like Women's History Month, Black History Month, Pride Month. We have Asian American Pacific Islander Month, but we will often partner with brands that want to be tied to these specific initiatives. So, for example, we may partner with a Black woman-owned small business, and they really want to shine a light on the owner and surprise this person with a life-changing gift, and that's one of the really cool parts of my job too, is we're really giving back to the community, and those are the segments that I love working on the most. They're just heartwarming stories, but yeah, very much in the content that I work on, we very much strive to make sure that those DE&I initiatives are there. But as a company in general, Disney very much invests in those various initiatives. They have a lot of employee resource groups, mentorship programs, focused leadership training to very much foster that kind of environment. So, as a company, they very much, have those DE&I initiatives. Yeah.
It's easy to forget, I think, sometimes maybe that this is what successful companies do, right? Successful
Mm-hmm.
companies understand how important these things are and invest in
Right.
them.
They do.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me take you back for a minute to Hawk Hill when you were here. What are
Okay.
2 or 3 experiences do you think students should engage in while in college to help prepare them for entering the field that you're in?
Yeah. So I know we talked a little bit about internships, but I am a huge believer that, internships can only help you, understand what you like, what you don't like, until you get that hands-on experience. That really shines a light of like, oh, I mean, that's what happened to me. Until I got that hands-on experience, I didn't really know, is this media and entertainment world what I wanted to pursue? So I am a huge believer of, get those internships, even if it's something that's not in line with exactly what you want to do. You might get a new perspective somewhere, or, all of a sudden another spark in your brain goes off and you're like, wait, actually, this is really cool. And I would love to pursue something like this. Until you get that experience, I truly believe that that's what can help the most in terms of just finding what you have a passion for. Um, so that really is my biggest thing. And like I mentioned earlier, when I interned at 6ABC, not only was I a marketing intern, but I was able to gain exposure to production, to creative services, to the newsroom. So it helped me, get exposure to so many different areas that I wasn't, entirely sure if I would even get exposure to. And then, I was able to learn so many different areas. But also really make sure that you're networking. I know we mentioned this earlier too, and I know it sounds like a broken record, but being able to attend networking events, alumni meetups, these type of things where I'm sitting and you're listening to alumni, talk about their experiences. It's so, so important because again, you might hear from, like you kept mentioning that someone talked about the Yankees this morning. You might not have thought that the sports avenue was, super interesting until this morning, and you heard that person speak about it and you're like, oh wow, there's a light bulb went off. That sounds really interesting to me. I think that's something that I would love to pursue. So being able to, take advantage of these networking and professional development events is super important, especially while you're at St. Joe's. I know working so closely or being at St. Joe's, I just remember how well that there's so many different events that the school puts on, and take advantage of that while you're there, because it's very important, and you never know what you'll learn and which avenue it'll take you.
I wanted to back up for a second because speaking of networking, you mentioned the class, and I have to assume that was a Dave Allen class,
It
the
was.
integrated. Is that who it
Yeah.
was?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Good guy to know.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I know. And I love telling that story. I mean, it it makes me so happy talking about it, because if I hadn't gone up to this person, I mean, I'm sure I would be in another great area in my life or whatever that career path might be. But I just, it's such a success story in terms of when it comes to networking. I was scared to go up to this person. You know, I've never really done networking before. I just had, you know, I just remember my professors talking about it, the career center talking about it. And all of a sudden there was this presentation by this man who was the sales VP at 6ABC, and I loved everything he had to say, and it really inspired me, and I got super excited. Just that was a super inspiring moment for me, and yeah, I just went right up to him, and being able to tell someone that you feel passionate about a certain area of work, it speaks volumes to them. And I do remember when I was when I was interviewing with him for the internship, there's words he said that I'll never forget. He said, you know, the passion that you had in your voice is what stood out to me. I understand you're in college. You're not necessarily going to have, you know, all of these, you know, a line of experiences on a resume. But being able to hear the passion in your voice is what really stood out to me, and how excited you were to learn, and you wanted to grow, and just absorb this kind of content. That's what resonated with him. So that's what I like to tell people, you know, just find that passion and just kind of run with it, because it will resonate with people, in terms of just learning where your career will take you.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
What is something, this is the classic question. What is something you wish somebody would have told you when you were in school at some point, you know, or a couple of things that you wish people would have told you?
Yeah. One thing that I wish someone told me, when I was in school, I thought like, oh, okay, I had to pick my career, and that was it. And I just had to find my thing, and that's gonna be the rest of my life. But I wish someone told me that my career path doesn't have to be so linear. I very much started, I know I didn't speak on this before, but I can now. When I first started with the company out of school, I took a sales position. I knew that I wanted to work for ABC. It was very much my dream because I had such a great experience with my internship. So I really wanted to stay with the company. So there was a sales opening, and I took that opening. And honestly, I did not want to do sales at all. It did not excite me. But I also said, you never know where this will take you. Maybe it'll surprise you and you'll love sales, and you'll want to grow within that role. But I did quickly learn, I was there for about a year in that role. I did quickly learn, okay, no, I do have a creative mind. I want to use my creativity. Although it was such a great experience, and I learned so much with that being my first role out of college. I think I want to do something a little bit more creative. I networked within the company, and I really was able to find my next role, which was in production. So I really did a 180 from sales to production for ABC News. And that was a super creative role, which I was like, okay, here's the creativity. But and I was there for about 2.5 years. And then what I did in that role, I can just touch on it quickly. I was in production for ABC News, and we produced promos for any of the shows under ABC News. So that's like World News Tonight with David Muir, GMA, The View, and so on. But if you're watching the show within Showtime, there would be like a 15-30 second spot that we would produce. Let's say if you're watching GMA, it would say, tomorrow on Good Morning America, The Bachelor is coming on, and he's here to talk about everything, you know, from his journey, whatever it might be. But we did a lot of promoting for our shows. But I loved that role. It was great. The next step would be more so a producer. And I didn't see myself really being in the producer world. I was still missing that marketing side of things. So I, again, networked, kind of met different people through the company. And that's really where I am today within the integrated marketing space, where I mentioned earlier, it's very much that middleman between sales and production. I'm very much working with people that I started with the company in sales with, but I'm also working really closely with the producers. So it's definitely that best of both worlds. So it's a very long answer to say, I wish someone told me that, your career path doesn't have to be so linear. You might start in one area, but you might find yourself, pivoting into different opportunities that align with, other interests or strengths that you have. every job, even if it isn't your dream job, I truly believe teaches you, valuable skills that'll help you down the line. Where I am right now in marketing, I work so closely with sales, and I'm so thankful that I had that starting out role in sales in the beginning of my career, because it's only helped and strengthened my role I am in today. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's such good advice. I mean, I mentioned the student that I was speaking with earlier today, and I hear this so often. Like, I have no idea, as I mentioned, I have no idea what I want to do, and students get really anxious about that.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if it helps when I say nobody knows, like just nobody knows, right? If you're sure as a sophomore in college exactly what you want to do the rest of your life, you are a very, very unique person.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm glad to hear that you're echoing those sentiments, because
yeah.
I certainly didn't know when I was that age.
I
Um,
didn't either. I don't think it really clicked until like the end of my junior years, where I really was like, oh, because that's sort of around the time I started getting that internship for 6ABC. But yeah, no, it and believe me, I think I saw some of my friends and people at school who were a little bit more sure than me, and it made me so nervous. I'm like, oh gosh, my friends all know what they want to do, and I don't. Like, this is what
yeah.
am I supposed to do? I'm behind, but no, you're not at all. So just know that, and things take time, and everything will fall into place the way it's supposed to. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't think I knew until about a month ago. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I'm like, do I even really know still? I don't know.
so
Yeah.
let me ask guys, anybody out there watching, please drop some questions in the Q&A. I think you just push the button there at the bottom and they'll pop up, and I'll pass them along to Rachel. Um, you did say that no 2 days are like totally understand, but can you give us a little bit of insight into kind of what today might look like, or what a day this
Yeah.
week might look like for you? Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, so like I mentioned earlier, a huge part of my job is coming up with a proposal for a client. What I mean by that is, a client might come to me, and I'll use Sharpie again. I've mentioned that earlier, but Sharpie has this new creative marker launch, and they really want to get this on air. So I very much have to come up with that proposal and try to sell that in. So once that is sold through, I'm very much the one who is working on this entire activation from beginning to end. So, again, being that middleman between our producers and our client, we are working through, the script revisions, and getting any kind of assets from the client that's going to be on air. So, like any imagery or their logos, or if they have any B-roll that they can give us, anything to make the piece visually interesting, so you're really not just looking at this sit down interview and it's just boring and not visually appealing. So really working with the client to get all of their assets together. And then I'm also the one who's on the grounds when it's time to tape. So I'll be, in studio, or if it's on site somewhere else, we will travel to a client. Whether I actually went to Texas not that long ago for a shoot that was in Austin, and it was really cool to just go somewhere different and have a taped piece somewhere else, that's just rather than just in our studio. So very much being that person who is that middleman, like I said, between the producer and the client. So again, each day is different. Some days I'll be in the studio taping a piece. Some days I'll be at my desk and we're working through script revisions, or some days I'll be really on calls all day long trying to pitch our shows to prospective clients. So it really keeps you on your
Wow.
toes. It's very much not a job where I'm just sitting at my desk all day, which is something that I was looking for. I like to be active. I like to have something different, different scenery. So it is a fun job being able to say, okay, each day is different. Um, and when it comes to news and working on news shows, obviously there's breaking news that happens, or things are constantly changing. Maybe there was a celebrity guest that was booked but they canceled last minute, so now the show needs to find a new booking. Or maybe the show will reach out to my team and be like, hey, we have a last minute booking in 2 days, but we would really like a sponsor for it. Anyone that you have connections with, and we can go find a sponsor. So it's quickly changing, and I do love that about it. It keeps you on your toes, and I'm busy but in a good way. So every day is a different day.
Yeah, that sounds terrific. There's a
Yeah.
question in the Q&A from Emily. She also says she also has Dave Allen. Dave is one of the first people I met when I came here. I am a disciple in the church of Dave Allen for sure. Um,
I
she,
love that.
she asks, she asks, what was the day to day like as a sales intern at 6ABC? Did you do sales as an intern
Yes.
also?
So
Okay.
I'm not sure how they do it now. I'm not sure if the process has changed, but when I was an intern, I was technically, I think the official title was digital sales and marketing intern. So I did touch sales and marketing. But I cannot say enough great things about this internship. They you often hear internship horror stories where it's like, I ran and got the coffee, or I wasn't
Yeah.
as like involved as I wanted to be, but this was the total opposite. They really valued me as if I was just another employee. I really got to just sit on as many meetings as I can. I was on my feet at shoots. They really threw me into the mix. So I very much felt like I was just an employee alongside of them. I was absorbing everything that I can during the time there. They actually put me in charge of one big project. This was specifically my summer internship, but it was like a summer reading sweepstakes. And I really got to own that project from beginning to end when it came to like script writing. And I was there on site for taping and seeing it come to life, and it actually aired. And that was huge, being able to say I was an intern, and this was this project that I really got to oversee for the summer. So again, I can't say enough good on for this internship. 6ABC was such a great place to learn and grow and absorb information. And I'm sure the other networks are also the same, like NBC's across the street, and CBS and Fox in the city. There's so many different stations that you could look at, and I know they all have internship programs. So it's definitely a really fun environment to just be able to get thrown into the fire and learn so many different departments. They were just so welcoming to the fact that I just wanted to sit and learn and absorb and watch everything that they did. Not saying that in a creepy way, but very much wanting to just learn everything that they did, and really just have eyes on everything, which was
Sure.
awesome. So it was a great experience.
It surprises me, I guess, a little bit to hear you talk about script writing and production,
Hmm.
and it leads me to a question about a bit of a selfish question actually about comm and comm classes,
Yeah.
where often students, this is another conversation I had with the student before I came on, is trying to help students understand the value of courses that don't seem really pertinent to your interests, but might
Right.
kind of come in handy later.
Oh yeah.
Um, is that your
Yeah.
experience? Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I very much believe that there's so many different courses that I took at St. Joe's, very much prepared me for where I am. And again, even if it's not the exact content that I am doing, I really was able to strengthen my skills when it comes to, social media or writing. There's so many different classes within the comms org that I got to, I don't know, just like learn about so many different platforms and that world that very much still resonate with me to this day. I was not a huge writer before St. Joe's. I actually remember one course that I did, that I took. It was oh gosh, it was food writing, and it was
Yeah.
very specific. I love food. So, and I knew that I wanted to strengthen my writing skills. So I did take that class, and I do remember that class kind of making me fall in love with writing, and again,
Mm,
just creating content. But that was one specific class that I'll never forget. I really enjoyed that class. It was just a lot of writing. It helped me strengthen my skills, and I do a lot of writing in my current role now. So, um,
mm.
before St. Joe's, I remember my writing skills not being as strong, but with some of the courses that I took, I feel like I'm a little bit more confident with that now, and I very much take that with me with my day to day here. So yes, long answer to say, there's so many different courses that I took that I very much feel have been um, very huge with what I do here now. So
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned writing because that is one all the time that,
yeah.
it's kind of a drumbeat for us when we talk to
Hmm.
students is like, no matter what you're gonna do,
Hmm.
you're gonna need it, whether you think you
Yeah.
do or not. Let
Yeah.
me ask you this. Um, I'm not sure how much thought you've given to this. One of the things that we always wrestle with in teaching classes is this is a discipline or an industry that's really important to stay current on everything,
Yeah.
from
Hmm.
tools to concepts to approaches. I'm wondering, do you guys talk about things like AI and the
Hmm.
impact of that? Like, what are those conversations like?
Absolutely. Yeah. So being in this sort of industry, I mean, things are changing all the time. And I think I mentioned earlier how, the streaming world is huge now. Disney Plus and Hulu, they're, these giants that we are very much putting a lot of focus on when it comes to driving our business forward and the ways that we can incorporate our clients into these new platforms. So, yes, being able to stay current is huge. But AI specifically has actually been a huge topic here. And I think there's been a lot of good ways to use AI, and not so good ways either. Those are always some conversations that we have. Just what's it great for? What's it not great for? But it's been great for ideation when it comes to coming up with like
Yeah.
a creative concept that maybe I wouldn't have thought about myself, or thinking about target lists for specific clients. If the show comes to us and we have this pet theme week coming up, for example, being able to be like, hey, like to AI, give me a list of all pet brands under the sun, and that's a huge resource
Mm,
for us, is being able to come up with brands that maybe I wouldn't have thought about. So there have been positive ways to use AI. The company as a whole has, they're starting to explore those different ways to use it in those positive, ways. But yeah, staying up to date with current events. Obviously, we're a news organization. Being able to stay current is huge for here, but also social media, digital streaming. That's a huge part of what we do. And yes, I work on linear television, but and they may get mad at me for saying this, but linear television is not as huge as it was, 5, 10
sure.
years ago. Our world is very much changing to the social digital streaming world. So like I mentioned, that's where we're putting a lot of our focus in for, driving our business forward. So yes, it is, crucial to stay up to date with, different trends, social media trends, whatever that might be, to stay successful in this career path.
Okay. Reminder, folks, if you have any questions, drop them in the Q&A and I'll pass them along to Rachel. Um, so speaking of the future, and I don't want to put you on the spot too much, like,
It's okay.
but where do you see yourself going? Like you've had a lot of experiences in a lot of different roles in the
Hmm.
in the company. Have you kind of looked at a path for yourself forward? How much have you thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think about it all the time. I'm always looking to, you know, grow as, an individual, and what that might look like. I do feel like I finally found something that I love, which is, the branded partnerships, integrated marketing space. It is an area that I, feel that I feel passionate about, and I feel like I am good at, and it makes me excited to say I love this space. That being said, there's so many different companies that need integrated marketing, or those branded partnerships. It's huge. So whether that's in entertainment and media, or it's within sports, or it's within travel, I have so many different interests, honestly. I love media and entertainment, but I'm also a sports junkie. I could always see myself down the line, maybe working for a sports team and doing, branded partnerships, or working. I love travel. So, working in the travel space. There's so many different industries that you could take that kind of career, which is awesome. So it doesn't have to be just television. It could be radio, it could be, whatever it might be. So yes, I often think about it, for myself, just in terms of, growing my career, and what that might look like. But I feel like I can confidently say that I love that whole integrated marketing space, and I could really see myself being here for a long time. I feel like I found my thing. So
All right,
yeah.
this is the professor. I mean, like, let's unpack integrated marketing because I think there are folks
Yeah.
probably watching who have never taken Dave Allen's class, There's
Yep.
integrated marketing and food marketing also.
Mhm.
What do we mean by by integrated marketing?
Yeah, yeah. So here at Disney, integrated marketing is basically working closely with our advertisers and integrating their brands or products into our show, sort of in like a nonchalant way that it's not like an ad in your face, but it's more like, integrated. It's seamless. It's not as salesy. It very much looks different depending on the program or the network that we're working on. But more so for my team, let's say if we're working on GMA3, we love to have like a brand spokesperson come onto the show, whether let's say we have a cooking segment with a cooking client. And